On Monday morning, the New Public Service Commission and 3 experts from overseas hosted a human resource management toolkit training workshop for heads of departments and senior officials, encouraging better execution of public servants' contributions into the public sector. Niue is the first country in the Pacific to facilitate such a workshop for its public service. In an opening remark by the Commonwealth Secretariat, Pacific Region Governance and Institution Development Representative, Dr. Tayamoni Pifileti, she reminded the public servants of the most important role they hold in government and engagement of services and communities, including government and the function of the public services. Honourable Poto Sipili, who is also the acting Premier, concluded the official opening by requesting that heads of departments address public servant attitudes and performances towards the execution of services provided. The government's push to encourage the right procedures and roles undertaken by heads of departments and senior staff when the proposed transformation process take place. Today, we spoke to one of the Public Service Commissioners, Esther Mavihi, on what has transpired so far.
The toolkit itself have 4 key essential tools that are used in human resource management, that are used by government departments and public service commissions so that we are able to better manage our public service.
Now, just from the observations yesterday in regards to some of the heads of departments and senior officials, the difference or the different interpretation of a lot of the processes that happen in government. How important is it for everybody to be, like you said in Niue, and singing the same song?
That's right. There are strengths and weaknesses of any system, and in the first 2 days of this workshop, we have identified certain weaknesses and also certain strengths of the newer public service. The good thing about this toolkit is that it presents the processes and also reinforces the fundamental processes of good governance as well as accountability and transparency. But key to that is the fact that as a public service, we are all working towards one goal. And it's always good to be reminded that process of achieving that one goal, we should always be mindful and use best practices and have standards. Hence, the introduction of this toolkit is so that we are made aware of what the best practices are and how we can go about that so that we are able to achieve that one vision of the country which is set out in our National Strategic Plan.
Even though more is yet to be discussed, Commissioner Pavihi is adamant that there will be some significant changes for public servants' resource management skills.
The good thing about these workshops and training programs is that we are all put in an environment where we are able to assess and share experiences, identify what those weaknesses are. Now, to some, that criticism can be offensive, but in the commissions, from the commission's perspective, we encourage that criticism. We encourage people to be critical of the service that we provide, because that would be the only way that we can improve. We established in the first day and a half of this workshop that the scenario here in Niue is that all departments, or most departments, are working in isolation. So when you have the best practices identified in this toolkit, that we should all be working collectively and collaboratively towards that one vision. But in actual fact, the situation is quite the contrary. That is why we need these workshops. So we identify that is our weakness here in Niue, and that this is now the opportunity for us, for the Public Service Commission, to address that so that we can improve on the delivery of our services, improve on the effectiveness and efficiency of the newer public service. And we're always reminded at these sessions by our trainers and experts that we are servants of the people. That's what we are. We are not here to create our own processes or recreate the wheel, so to speak. There are established processes. We just need to work together to achieve that vision and that goal as a country.
Many public servants who participated in the workshop were pleased that more information and clarifications of government policies, responsibilities and public expectations were clearly defined by the experts, and more so from a regular visitor to the island, Mosili Dr. Matanyalofi Loi Ufi. Dr. Lofi, who was instrumental in a newer public service report, strongly reminded the participants to remember their roles in each department does not just focus on individual sectors, but government as a whole. A contextual solution of the discussions is expected to finalize by the end of the workshop that is scheduled to conclude on Friday. An old debt on land lease for Niuehani has been promised to be settled as landowners threat to restrict the owner of Niuehani and Rikori and his staff from entering their properties until the debt arrears for more than 5 years are paid. As the group of landowners met Mr. Corey outside his factory in Whanakula, a new deal was sealed for a substantial increase to the original cost, but the arrears was promised by Mr. Corey to be settled before he departs the island on Friday.
Well, I'd like to take the opportunity, and I thank you, Moira, for the opportunity to address these issues, and I'd like to thank the Niuean people for their patience, and I'd like to thank the Niuean landowners for their patience too. When we were up here in 2004, the cyclone, as most of you are aware, my wife and I lost our house, all our house, nothing there to rebuild or anything like that, and we lost basically 2/3 of our bee stock here, and they got down to a stage that they were just cupfuls of bees that we had to rebuild. So that's why my wife and I went back to New Zealand to earn money to keep this business going. And for the last 6 years, we've just had to send money up to keep this going and pay the wages of the boys and pay the wages to keep the truck going and pays RP wages and the power. And we've really, the landowners, I must admit, have been neglected, I'm afraid. And I'm up here this time. We've had to sort this issue out.
Mr. Corey said Niuehani has been difficult to offload, but a new market has meant will make an impact on the remuneration deal agreed on.
We had a good meeting yesterday, and the landowners voiced their concerns, and I explained to them that it's only now that we have a contract with the Chinese for 10 years for the honey, and we've sent one shipment back to New Zealand, and hopefully there'll be another shipment going out on this boat. So this is the first time that we've actually had a market for the honey. The Niue honey has been very hard to sell in New Zealand. We've taken it around to different packers in New Zealand who specialise in honey, and our basic problem is the honey's too good. In New Zealand we've got residues and mites and all the associated chemicals, and the New Zealand packers didn't want to have the clean, residue-free honey sold against their line. So it was only when the Chinese came along that offered us this contract that we've really had to ramp up production. Previous to that, basically we were just in a caretaker mode to keep it going until the forest grew back and the bees got strong enough to produce honey. So we had a contract originally when we came up 12 years ago, and we looked at that contract and we were going to pay back pay to the Cyclone, and we were going to up in the original agreement when I set this up it was a 50 cents a box, but now we've gone up to $1 a box. So yesterday the landowners had a meeting amongst themselves, the ones that were here, and they were quite happy to be squared up to where we are today at the old rate, but we've decided and we've come to an arrangement that they will go for a 300% increase on the hive rent, which has gone from $25 to $100 a year, and then gone from $1 a box to $5 a box. And hopefully we'll be able to sustain that with the flow of honey going out of Niue. We've also had increased costs here. We've had to bring our labour up to the government increase that was in December, I think it was, so that had to be back paid. So as well as the increased cost, my men have got to start really producing some honey. We've got to get some honey out of here to cover these extra costs. So I think it was a satisfactory meeting with the landowners. I'm disappointed more didn't turn up, some of those out of those 31, some of them are government, and some of them have been paid by T. So when you add those in, I think we've got up to about 13, 14 landowners done. And then what with the government ones, we're well over halfway. That's what I say. And I'll be back on another visit to hopefully the others will be available to sort the rest out.
So are you saying only the 6 that turned up yesterday will be paid this time?
Well, that's the only ones I've got details of. That's the only ones that have come here and marked their sites. So I've got their names of the sites, and which they are. I've got the records of how much honey's been taken off them, and it's all just got to be tracked through. If someone was to turn up today, it wouldn't be too late, but I think it's a bit much to ask half a day before I get on the plane to sort it out. So,
how many sites are actually working now? How many sites do you collect from?
I think we've got 31 spread around the island.
Now, I guess from the concerns of the landowners previously,
yes.
Is that because of the amount that you owe in arrears,
yes.
How will you expect to pay the huge increase that was agreed on yesterday?
Well, I'm glad you acknowledge it was huge. It is a huge percentage-wise, but we think it's sustainable. I hope if we have another cyclone, the landowners will realise that be a bit more, be tolerant that there's no honey produced. But with the honey going out on a regular basis, we've just come through the wet, and we've been out taking honey off today. I can't see it being a major problem.
Many of the landowners' concerns is the continuing lack of communication from the Niue Honey Company, and many feel that the company has not treated them fairly. And after the meeting with the few that turned up, it was a short negotiating window the landowners took to ensure they are remunerated. Some landowners with more than 8 years owed to them will be a couple of $100 happier this week, and those who did not, Mr. Corey said, they will be settled when he returns to the island. Niue is gradually making its mark in the digital era with new services available with ROX Mobile. ROX Mobile, a branch of Telecom Niue, rolled out its services last year with SMS texting and calling available only locally. But customers can now look forward to connecting with families and friends living abroad with the new services.
At the moment, we can text to operators in New Zealand. This includes XT Mobile, Telecom New Zealand, Vodafone, as well as 2 Degrees. And in Australia, we can send SMS both ways to Vodafone Australia, Telstra. We're still working with Optus. And in Fiji, we can send to Vodafone Fiji and Telecom Fiji as well. And a few other Pacific Islands, namely Palau with BNCC Mobile, and FSM with their mobile service, as well as Tuvalu Telecom. The cost is still set at 34 cents per text, and to receive a text, it's free. So it's only the originating cost, sending text, that the customer will have to pay for at the moment. When we first started, or when the project or the GSM service was launched back in July last year, the top-ups only come with 1 month and 30-month validity for $10 to $20. But now we've increased that, or we've extended that to 365 days. So what that means is that if you have $10 in your mobile, and if you use that up, that $10 within the first week, your mobile is still valid for 365 days.
The additional services are much welcomed by customers who want their money's worth.
I used it since July last year. There were a few technical problems, but now it's okay. Top up at the beginning was a bit difficult to do, but it's a bit easier now. It's okay. I can receive and send texts to overseas, New Zealand and Australia. The only problem I find with it is areas I can get reception. For me personally, it was cheaper for me to have a cell phone, and I'm hardly at home, so I'm always around town. Before, when you used to top up, it only lasts for about a month, 30 days, and now they've changed it so it can last a whole year. So it is really good because if your 30 days are expired before, you don't have access to your phone, so you can't receive calls or anything.
ROX Mobile are also aware of the customers' desires for better coverage and signal strength, and this is something that they are currently working on.
The whole ICT project on the GSM side, we are concentrating on the western side of the island, the coastal side. That's coming from Dalofi Township up to the airport area, Kaimisi, Avaseli and Tamangatonga area, and perhaps Waia and Tolometonga. But at the moment, the coverage is only good in Alofi and Kaimisi. As you can see, we're still in the process of installing our tower here in Avaseli, and this will provide better coverage for the villages of Avaseli and Tamangatonga and perhaps Waia. For the other villages, at the moment, that's still in the planning stage. It's all to do with cost funding. That's quite expensive to install a site like this in the other villages based on the number of subscribers that we have in each village. But we are looking at expanding, maybe not in the near future, but we have that in the plans. Realistically, we're probably looking at, in addition to the free sites that we have, we're probably looking at least another 4 sites that will provide optimum coverage for mobile usage for the whole of the island. So in total, that will be that 4 sites will give us 7 sites altogether. The 4 sites that I've mentioned earlier, that's really dependent on funding. We have no say in that. So for the free sites, once we have the fibre landed in Kaimisi Station, then we'll bring the site up operation. So we're looking at about another 2 to 3 months before we can have the full all 3 sites up and running. As for the expanding coverage, we don't have a time frame on that, nor do we have any funding at the moment.
And as with many things, funding is an issue, and these services will come at a cost to set up infrastructure to support services. But these are matters that the department is working on at the moment. ROX Mobile is also looking at additional services in the near future. And following a 1-week break, Kilikiki teams were back on the field in the 3rd round challenge last Saturday. Alofi met their competition and the team from Liko as the teams battled it out in La Kapa. Liko was first up to bat, mustering a total of 293 points. Alofi failed to catch up with the points. The game in Mutalo between Tuapa and La Kapa would have been one of the shortest games, it was all over before 11 a.m. Tuapa's batting and fielding proved superior, scoring with the La Kapa up first and only managing 88 points on the board. It took 9 people from Tuapa's team to catch that score. As for Hakupu and Avaseli, Hakupu was first up to bat with a grand total of 262 points before Avaseli went on to bat with 20 people batting 271 points. Waia were up against the combined team of Hitavake, Toi and Namukulu, and that made for an entertaining game. Waia bat first and got a whopping 419 points. Hitavake Toi put up a good fight, but only managed 166 points. And last year's champions Tamangatonga were up against tough competition with the team from Makefu. Tamangatonga were up first to bat with a total score of 262 and all out. Makefu put up the challenge, chasing the score with just 11 people, 9 out and 2 remaining on the field. They managed 271 points. And all teams are looking forward to the next lot of games this coming weekend. That is our news bulletin for tonight. We do hope that you can join us again for our next news bulletin.